After 11 years with my high school sweetheart turned fiancé, being her sole provider, chauffeur, emotional support, and entire world, I think I've fallen out of love, gave her a deadline to change, and now I feel like a selfish monster secretly preparing to leave. I think I've fallen out of love with my girlfriend, technically my fiancé, after 11 years together, and I'm starting to feel like breaking up might be the only realistic path forward. Even writing that feels strange, because she's been part of my life for so long that being with her has always just felt like the default. We met in high school and started dating during my sophomore year, and from that point on we've basically grown up side by side. For most of my teenage years, and all of my adult life, she's just been there. When we were younger, things felt easy. We were kids, and the relationship felt light the way teenage relationships usually do. We spent time together, laughed a lot, and didn't have to think about money, responsibilities, or long-term compatibility. The first real crack happened when she found some messages from when I was about 15 or 16. I had been flirting with some random stranger on an obscure messaging app one can't even remember anymore. It was immature and stupid, and I've regretted it for years. But that moment stuck with her in a way that never really faded. Since then, trust has been a recurring issue. Over time it's shown up in a lot of ways. Her going through my phone or computer if I leave them unattended, asking who's texting me or what I'm typing whenever my phone buzzes, getting uncomfortable or upset if I interact with women, and disliking the only friends I regularly talk to, who happen to be two women from work. I'm the only guy in the office, so I don't exactly have many other options socially there. If trust issues were the only challenge, I honestly think I could live with that. It wouldn't be perfect, but reassurance and boundaries are things couples can work on. The bigger problem is everything else that's built up around it. She doesn't work and never really has, so financially, everything falls on me. Rent, utilities, groceries, takeout, her medications, doctor visits, and any random expenses, it all comes out of my paycheck. Most months, we only have a couple $100s left over, maybe $200 to $400 if nothing unexpected happens. That margin disappears fast, and it keeps me in a constant low-level state of financial stress. At home, she doesn't really contribute to responsibilities either. She doesn't cook, clean, do laundry, feed or walk the dog, or handle household chores. Most of that ends up on me before or after work, and some days it feels like I'm working two jobs, one at the office and one at home, just to keep our life functioning. Since 2020, she's barely left the house for more than a few hours at a time. Her anxiety about being in public has gotten extremely intense, to the point where even simple outings feel overwhelming for her. Because of that, I rarely go out either, except to work or pick up food or groceries. Over time, my own world has shrunk along with hers, and I've started to feel isolated in a way I didn't notice at first. She also doesn't drive, even though she got her license back in 2019. So whenever she needs to go anywhere, I have to take her. If I want to do something that interests me, see friends, attend an event, or even just spend time outside the house, she usually doesn't want to go unless it's something she also enjoys. And if I suggest going alone, she hates it. Going out with friends is worse. She's extremely jealous of them and has said I'm betraying her if I spend time with them instead of staying home. Work opportunities have been affected too. I'm occasionally offered overnight trips across the country that could help my career, give me experience, and open doors long term. But she doesn't want me to go because I wouldn't be with her, and she worries about how she'd manage alone. So I keep turning those trips down. Every time I do, it feels like I'm quietly choosing to limit my own growth just to keep the peace at home. Family is another complicated area. There was some bad blood between her and my mom's side of the family back when we were still in high school, and she's disliked them ever since. Over the years, to avoid conflict, I've basically cut contact with them. I only see my family maybe 3 times a year, even though they live just 45 minutes away. Most of the time, she doesn't want to go, and it feels like time spent with them is treated as time taken away from her. On top of all that, she can have a very short temper with me. When we argue, she often talks to me in ways that feel disrespectful or dismissive. It rarely feels like my opinions or feelings matter as much as hers, and there's an unspoken expectation that I should always put her first, regardless of how I feel. Despite our tight financial situation, she frequently asks for gifts or little treats, things that aren't necessary and that we realistically can't afford. It puts me in a constant position of either saying no and feeling like the bad guy, or saying yes and worrying about money afterward. Personality-wise, we're very different, and the while that once felt complimentary now just feels draining. She's extremely clingy and emotional, while I'm much more independent and reserved. Where she wants constant reassurance and togetherness, I feel like I barely have space to breathe sometimes. Her parents don't make things easier. They openly dislike me and, from what I understand, often tell her I'm a failure or that she should find someone else who can better take care of her or handle her needs. At the same time, they don't actually offer to help her themselves in any meaningful way. It just adds another layer of tension, knowing that there are voices in her life actively encouraging her to doubt me. And then there are all the smaller issues, the little daily frustrations that don't sound huge on their own, but build up over time. The constant pressure, the lack of shared responsibility, the feeling that my life has slowly narrowed while my obligations have grown. More and more, I feel like I've shifted from being her partner to being her provider, chauffeur, emotional support system, and household manager all in one. I'll be the first to admit I'm not perfect in this relationship either. At this point, I feel emotionally checked out most of the time, like I'm just running on autopilot trying to get through each day without rocking the boat too much. When she asks me to be affectionate or reassure her, I often find myself sighing internally or even outwardly complaining because it feels forced instead of natural. When she asks me to buy things she doesn't actually need, especially when money is tight, I get frustrated quickly. I know I've been short-tempered, and there are times when I snap at her over things that shouldn't escalate. When I'm really stressed or upset, I've yelled and cursed, which I'm not proud of at all. Our intimacy has suffered too. We haven't had sex in over a year, and that distance just reinforces how disconnected I feel. I do think a lot of this behavior is tied to how overwhelmed and resentful I've become in the relationship, but I'm not trying to dodge responsibility. Regardless of the reasons, I know I'm not showing up as the partner she probably wants or deserves anymore. That realization alone makes me feel guilty, because it confirms that something fundamental between us has changed. All of this has been weighing on me for a while, but recently it's felt heavier. A random friend from high school passed away suddenly not long ago, and it shook me more than I expected. It made me think a lot about how short life is and how quickly everything can change. Around the same time, I've also formed some newer friendships with people who genuinely seem to care about me and enjoy my company. The harsh thought I keep coming back to is that she gains a lot from being with me: stability, housing, financial support, companionship, while I mostly feel stress, pressure, and responsibility. If I were alone or even eventually with someone else, I honestly think about 95% of the problems I'm dealing with right now wouldn't exist. A big part of what's holding me back is the sunk cost feeling. It's been over a decade. 11 years is such a huge chunk of life that the idea of throwing it away feels terrifying. What if things could get better, and I just didn't try hard enough? What if I regret leaving after investing so much time and history into this? Then there's the emotional attachment. I do love her. I care about her deeply. She's been my partner since we were kids, and she's woven into so many of my memories and experiences. But the romantic part, the feeling of being in love, I don't know if that's still there. Another huge weight on me is the responsibility I feel for her life. Right now, I handle almost everything financially, practically, emotionally. If I left, my day-to-day life would barely change logistically. I'd still work, pay bills, and live my routine. But her entire world would be turned upside down. She'd have to move, figure out money, face her anxiety, and rebuild from scratch. Her parents complicate that guilt even more. They're not particularly kind or supportive toward her, and I know going back to live with them would probably be hard on her emotionally. I also worry about what happens to her as a person if I'm not there. I sometimes feel like I'm the only one pushing her, even gently, toward growth or stability. Without me, I worry she might just isolate further, stop trying altogether, and stagnate. And then there's the loneliness factor. She doesn't really have friends. It's basically just me and her mother. If I'm gone, she'll be almost completely alone. There's probably more I'm forgetting, but those are the biggest things weighing on me right now. The truth is, I came incredibly close to leaving her a few weeks ago. We had this hours-long, emotionally exhausting talk where I finally laid everything out: how unhappy I've been, how suffocated I feel, how the constant tension and anxiety at home have been draining me for years. I told her I didn't think I could keep doing this. And then she completely fell apart. I've seen her upset before, but this was different. She started shaking all over, hyperventilating, crying so hard she could barely speak. She kept wailing that she was sorry, that she didn't want to be alone, begging me not to leave her again, asking how I could do this to her. Watching someone you care about crumble like that right in front of you does something to your brain. All the frustration I'd been holding on to instantly tangled itself up with guilt. In that moment, I felt like I was the villain. Like I was about to destroy this poor girl's life just by walking out the door. So instead of leaving, I backed down. I calmed her down, told her it didn't feel fair to just leave without giving her a real chance to improve. I said I'd give her a month. 1 month to show genuine, consistent change, not promises, not apologies, but actual change in behavior. After that, we'd revisit things. Either I stay and she keeps working on herself, or I leave for real this time. No begging. No bargaining. No emotional hostage situation. At the time, it sounded reasonable. Mature even. But ever since that conversation, the whole situation has felt wrong. Gross, honestly. She's been anxious constantly. Every day it's the same questions. Am I doing okay? Are you mad at me? Do you regret staying? Do you think we're going to be okay? It doesn't feel like she's improving because she understands or respects my feelings. It feels like she's terrified of being abandoned, and that fear is the only reason she's trying. The best way I can describe it is awful, but accurate. It feels like she's a dog that peed on the floor, and instead of teaching her properly, I shoved her face in it over and over. Now she's walking on eggshells, not because she understands what went wrong, but because she's scared of punishment. That's not healthy. For either of us. Another thing that's been weighing on me is my friends. I love my friends more than almost anyone in my life. Honestly, probably more than anyone except maybe my dad. Being around them is the happiest I've felt since I was a kid. They're my support system, my sanity, the people who remind me what life feels like outside this constant emotional fog. For a long time, I tried to get her to meet them. I thought if she knew them, maybe she'd feel less insecure about me spending time with them. Maybe it would help her socialize more too. But she never wanted to go. Always an excuse, always a reason to stay home. Eventually, they started picking up on things anyway. Overhearing phone calls. Seeing how stressed I was. Hearing bits and pieces of what my home life is actually like. Now they can't stand her. They want nothing to do with her, and they're actively trying to help me build the courage to leave. And honestly, I don't blame them. If I stay, I know there's going to be tension there. They'll never fully accept her after everything they've heard and seen. That means choosing this relationship could also mean slowly damaging the friendships that make me happiest. And that realization scares me. What messes with my head the most is this. Even if she does get better, I don't know if that fixes things. There's years of baggage here. Years of resentment, exhaustion, and memories I can't just erase. With someone new, I wouldn't have that history. I wouldn't start from a place of burnout and doubt. Staying almost feels like settling. Like choosing the familiar instead of the healthy. But then the doubt creeps in. What if she really does change? What if we could be happy? If I leave after she's trying, does that make me the bad guy? Was I just leading her along this whole time? Did I give her false hope? Am I ruining her life by walking away? I keep going in circles in my own head. The truth is, after everything that's been said, after I've told her how unhappy I am, after she's seen how close I am to leaving, I don't think we can ever go back to how things were. And I'm not even sure I'd want to. But I also don't know if I'll like whatever this new normal turns into. Right now, the plan is to give it until the beginning or middle of March before making a final decision. Stay and let her keep working at it, or leave and finally start living my life for myself. Try not to think about how miserable hers might become if I go. That thought alone makes me feel like a terrible person. I guess what I'm really looking for is reassurance that I'm not some evil, manipulative asshole who's already ruined this girl's life and is about to ruin it further by leaving. I need advice on what to actually do from here because I feel stuck between guilt and self-preservation. For context, the changes I asked her to make weren't anything wild or unreasonable. I asked her to be kind, respectful, and considerate toward me. Start helping around the house instead of leaving everything to me. Start looking at job openings and thinking about what she might want to do. Even part-time would be fine. Let me go out when I want to, as long as there's no obvious reason I shouldn't. She's welcome to come, but her not wanting to shouldn't stop me. Let me spend time with my friends and family without guilt or interrogation. Go out on dates with me again and actually leave the house together. Try to be more trusting and stop constantly snooping on me.